I'm Dr. Alan Unruh from the great state of South Dakota, and I'm here to introduce our speaker, who is a real dynamo from what I've heard so far. He said we have no fear, and I remembered that the good book has 365 fear nots in the Bible, one for every day of the year.
This is leap year, 366.
Okay, perfect. See, he's already corrected me. That's good. And he's managed to make Hillary Clinton's enemy list, which is a pretty good plus. Of course, Hillary, you couldn't warm up to if you was cremated with her. But anyway, she lights up the room whenever she leaves, But anyway, Field McConnell was raised by a pair of World War II veterans at a series of Air Force bases around the United States. He graduated from Annapolis in 1971, continued his 26-year military career while beginning a 31-year airline career. He retired 8 years early from Delta Airlines as his intelligence work with Able Danger was too hot to handle. And the Obama administration, especially Hillary Clinton and Christine Marcy, wanted him silenced. Help us give a warm welcome to Field McConnell.
You guys didn't hear that. What I said was, thank you very much, you made me cry. And I'm serious. I'm touched. Thanks for being here. I'm going to introduce two people very quickly. I'm going to ask my wife, Denise, to stand up, please. My wife, Denise, saved my life because I hate the condition of the world so much. I didn't wish to remain, but I wasn't going to take the easy way out. So thank you, God, and thank you, Denise. Pastor Braveheart, would you give a 60-second prayer that I will not misspeak when I'm representing?
Those look like faith, please bow your heads. Father, we invoke, we ask, and come, make your presence known. Say when two or more are gathered in your name, you will. Come here now, touch this man. He has given you your heart, his heart. Ask that thou, Lord, you will speak through him by the power of your Holy Spirit. I pray now that you would lift him up with wings of eagles, and he would bring forth the truth that you have laid on his heart, that many, many would come to know that you have gifted him to give. Bless him, bless his loved ones, protect Ellie, who is really right now in his home against this fire. Everything demonic and evil that is standing up against this conference and against the rise of the people of faith. Bless us now in Jesus' name.
Amen. Thank you very much, and you did lift me up with your kind words. And for those of you who might be pablum drinker, hi Jason, if there's anybody in the room that considers himself a Christian or a believer and you're drinking pablum, hang in there. But God didn't make all of his God has a sense of humor. He'll create whoever he needs to create to get the message out in truth, in faith, in obedience and trust to God. And there's two people in this room that would like me to be dead. There may be more, but I know two. And I would just say to those two people, here I am. Come and get it. But we got a camera going, so be careful. I hope, are there any children under 18 in this room? If so, could somebody get my attention? Good, let's let her rip, potato chip. There's many people who are powerful in their own minds who have tried to destroy our country. First of all, let me give you some good news. Our country is not going to be destroyed. And the people that have tried to destroy it, they know my name, God knows their name, and somewhere between me and God and all of you, we will have their ass. So let's do that collectively. I'm representing all of you people here that have any interest in what I do, And I love it when people say, well, you should go to your room and prepare. What they're saying is they don't know me. I don't use notes. I don't prepare. I show up, I stand up, and I speak up. And I'm terrible, excuse me. I'm terribly humbled to be used in this way today. So thank you for coming. What I'd like to do is turn it over for questions right now, because I don't have an agenda. I speak of God, I speak for God, I speak against evil, and I'm going to identify as many evil bastards as... Jason, go ahead. What's that? What's that? The few people? Which two people? I don't listen, I speak. If somebody writes the question, I'll answer it. But what I'd like to do is I'd just like to go right to questions, because that challenges me. Is there anything globally that anybody wants me to talk about before we go to questions? Because I'm not here to lie to you. I'm here to let the two people that wish me to be dead to know they're absolutely screwed, because I'm going to be dead 1 nanosecond after God ordains it. And a gentleman first, then we'll go to Ann.
You mentioned some of the history of John McCain and how he's impacted this country before he died.
Yes, I'd really like to. In fact, when they asked me what I wanted to speak about, I said, you don't know me very well, because I just want to answer questions. But I said, if you force me to say what I'd like to speak about, I'd like to eulogize John McCain, who's a traitor, but I mean, he's gone. He was executed. I believe it was 2 bullet wounds to the head. Don't take that to the bank, but he paid the price for 6 cases of treason and 1 case of sedition. And John McCain was not only a coward, but he was an evil bastard. And we're being recorded. So any of you McCains out there, you don't like it? Come and get it. John McCain graduated from Annapolis in 1958. He used to brag about being the bottom guy in his class. He couldn't even get that right. There were 900 graduates in the class of 1958. He never would have graduated had it not been for his daddy and his granddaddy, but he was number 893. So John, wherever you are, and I believe I know where he is, you shouldn't have lied so much. If you're going to speak for America, speak the truth. If you're not speaking the truth in America, at some point you are going to be identified and removed and vilified. So let's start with his grandfather, class of 1906 at Annapolis. Not a very good guy. They're all from Scotland. By the way, my wife's from England. I have a Scottish name, but our citizenship is not in this world. Thank you for the amen. I can't, for those of you who have never seen me before, I can't tell you how moved I am to be given this opportunity to tell the truth. John McCain's grandfather graduated from Annapolis in 1906. By 1942, he had had a lackluster career that was filled with failure and treason. On August 8th of 1942, he was told by his superior to take your phony baloney land-based aircraft. I'm trying to attack his personality now. Navy pilots and Marine pilots are trained to fly off aircraft carriers. If you're not capable or trustworthy, they'll give you a flying job, and I had one, so I'm not a hypocrite. I was kicked out of a fighter squadron because the squadron commander, and I'll never name names, Thomas R. Radich, yeah, he came up to me on Labor Day of 1973 and said, how come you weren't at your duty station, and how come the sergeant of the guard is drunk, and how come the phone watch is on drugs? And I said, well, you're the commander. I'm not. I'm a first lieutenant, but I'll tell you this. We have real poor leadership around here. And I said, the guy's named Thomas Radich. Come and get it. There's nothing coming out of here that isn't truthful. And if you don't like the way I talk, the doors are open. But I'm here to tell the truth quickly and with lethal accuracy. So this squadron commander said, well, I really admire you and your backbone, but you and your backbone will be out of fighters and flying I almost said something else. The movie Top Gun, anybody know what they said? you'll be flying rubber dog shit out of Hong Kong. And that's what I did. I got kicked out of a fighter squadron, and I got temporarily assigned to fly transport category Air Force. If there's any young male in the Air Force, the Army, the Navy, the Marine Corps, the Coast Guard, that their dream is to fly transport category aircraft, I haven't met one. But that's a penalty, and I was penalized for my mouth, and yet Thomas Radich is not here, and I am. So I think the truth plays well in America with real Americans, with patriots, and with Christians, and with future Christians. There's not one person in this room that's not a Christian today that won't be soon. At the end, every knee shall bow. Back to the McCain three-generational treason. He was ordered on the 8th of August of 1942 to take his garbage airplanes and fly through the Savo Strait. The Savo Strait is it's a little body, narrow body of water between Savo Island and Florida Island. And the Battle of Savo, has anybody in here ever heard of the Battle of Savo? Oh, good. Yeah, okay, well, this McCain traitor, he thought, well, I'm a McCain, I don't have to do what my boss says, so he didn't take his airplanes and surveil, recon, recce, call it what you want. He didn't go out and look for Japs on the 8th. On the morning of the 9th, the biggest naval loss in history occurred because a McCain didn't follow an order. And I've in my career in the military, there's a lot of orders I didn't follow. Nobody in the military is required to follow an order unless it's wartime and it's a legitimate order. Now, if it's wartime, who cares if it's legitimate or not? But if it's not wartime, don't bother me with your chicken scratch. You know, be a leader or get out of the way. And they don't like that. But let's just, I'm going to get back to the McCains, but let me just mention some four-star people that are not leaders. West Point graduate Cody, class of 72. West Point graduate Abazad, class of 73. You're going to get two names here you'll recognize. West Point graduate David Petraeus, 74. West Point graduate and Chief of Staff, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Martin Dempsey, 74. Lieutenant General Stanley McChrystal, 76. Major General Philip Kensinger, 70. And I'm going to apologize to every woman and female, and if you're transgender woman, this doesn't apply to you, but for every woman and female, if I say anything that sounds sexist, yeah, I am sexist. I believe both sexes were created equal, and I think we're created and engineered by our Creator to perform certain functions. But some people don't agree with me, so I vilify them. The last general who has committed these treasons, and the generals I just mentioned, they participated in the assassination of Pat Tillman. Some people know that? Well, God bless you too. Watch this, here it comes. Can I get a witness? Yeah. Pat Tillman gave up a multi-million-dollar brilliant career with the Arizona Cardinals to go over and serve because he drank the Kool-Aid on 9/11 and his little brother was in the Army. And I think, somebody can correct me, but I think Pat Tillman's brother was Kevin Tillman. And he felt so bad about his brother getting paid $8,300 a year to get shot at when he's getting paid $40 million. These are not accurate numbers, but he was getting paid a lot to play a little boy's game. So he got out of the NFL and he went over to Afghanistan, and he went out on a patrol with, in fact, I know his patrol's name, Serial 1 and Serial 2. They went on a patrol, and he was assassinated, and he was assassinated by some combination of U.S. and U.K. soldiers that are special forces. He was assassinated with an SA-80 bullpup rifle. He got 3 .223 rounds right through his forehead in the pattern of a quarter. Now, for those of you who don't know, and I don't know, I've learned all this, some of it the hard way. But you cannot fire an automatic weapon and put 3 rounds in a quarter-sized pattern Unless you're, yeah, that's right. What do they call that? Whoa. Rise. I think it's called rise, isn't it? Does anybody know? Recoil? Yeah, if I'm going to go, let's pick you because you have a sense of humor. If I'm going to go boom, 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 well, if I'm not good, I'm going to go boom. And then the second boom is going to go, yeah. So anyway, he was assassinated. Do I know this? Yes, as a matter of fact, I do. Several years ago, I was shooting my mouth off, and I got an email from Mary Tillman, his mother. And Mary said, Mr. McConnell, I see you've been talking about my son. Would you please contact me at your earliest convenience? And I was terrified because it was either going to be real good or real bad. And to this point in my life, a majority of it's been bad. But I got this from a guy who was sort of a drunk. F-8 pilots were my heroes during Vietnam. And one guy who was notorious for having a martini at lunch as an instructor in front of the students, I love the guy, and he's deceased, and I won't mention his name because some of his relatives might not understand how much I love him. But he told me something once in an offhand remark, and I'm going to do this intentionally. Is it Alan? I'm going to do this to you. He said, Field, for the rest of your career, always turn into the fight. And what he meant by that was whatever's going to happen, let's get it over. You know, nose to nose, beak to beak. One of us is going to win and one of us is going to be dead. Well, he's dead, and I'm not winning. I'm just trying to speak the truth. So I'm trying to talk about these generals who have misled our enlisted forces, and Satan, who has misled our leadership. And I know I'm supposed to be talking about my favorite trilogy of traitors, so let's get back to them. On the morning of August 9th, 1942, the biggest loss of human life and gross tonnage of Navy vessels in the history of the United States Navy occurred because one John McCain didn't follow an order, and a lot of enlisted people and a lesser number of officers died I've never been dead. But I don't think it's a comfortable way to go to be in the bowels of a big Navy vessel on fire with chemicals burning, and there's no way out. So I think I've just vilified one of the McCain trio. He caused the greatest loss of humans and tonnage in the history of the Navy. And for the rest of this speaking opportunity, if I misspeak one word, would someone please say, could you rephrase that? Because then you won't really be saying I'm wrong. But if I need to rephrase something, I want to do it. I don't want to mislead anyone like the McCains, like the Bushes. Which Bushes? All of them. All of them. Yeah, and when I used to vote, I voted for some of them. But I was deceived, but the scales came off my eyes. Is that accurate, Mark? Yeah, and in fact, I just talked to somebody who's remained nameless. He's one of the other speakers. And I looked at him in the eyes and I said, one of the reasons I wanted to come here is I wanted to look some of you guys in the eyes and judge for myself. And he wasn't threatened. But when I got done talking to him, and it doesn't matter who it is, I said, well, 40 seconds into this conversation, I knew you were a good guy. And unfortunately, last night at a VIP thing, I looked into some other eyes and I saw something else. But, you know, God doesn't want us to judge, and that's written in don't help me, Matthew 7:1. But he does want us to be discerning. And so you can call me an exposure artist, and on the back of my belt buckle it says Ephesians 5:11, have nothing to do. When you're working for God, it's so humbling. Have nothing to do with the evil deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. God asked me to do it. Here I am. Let's do some more. In the class of 1931 at Annapolis, John McCain II, or Jr., or whoever, graduated. And, of course, he rose to 4-star rank. During World War II, there were 2 4-star McCains. And they were both, my choice of words, they were both traitors. None of you, well, not none of you, there's a lot of smart people here, but is there anyone in this room that knows what the ALD Alliance, A-U-L-D, anyone know the ALD Alliance? Oh, good. Learning is taking place. It's a agreement between Scotland and France to oppose England. or not help England. Take it any way you want it. I put it out there. Somebody Google it and tell me at the end if I'm right or I'm wrong. AULD. So these are Scottish traders, and my name is McConnell, and that's Scottish, but I'm only one quarter. God has a sense of humor. But anyway, the second McCain, I'll go right to the jugular on him. Has anybody in here heard of the USS Liberty? Has anyone in here learned that LBJ from Texas, that he ordered the Navy to destroy the Liberty, and he said, I'll provide you some Israeli fighters painted up in Egyptian, this is called false flag. The fighters that attacked the Liberty, and they didn't want to do it. So if anybody thinks I'm anti-Israel, no, I'm not. I'm not anti-anybody. But if you're anti-God, you got a problem. And that's what LBJ did, and he worked it through McNamara, and they put young enlisted Navy guys through hell, and I'm here for payback. When these airplanes, and I can't tell you if they're called motor fast gun boat, it's some type of surface craft that's really fast with big guns. The French-built Mirage fighters attacked the USS Liberty on the 8th of June of 1967. And the leader, and people that know me, and there's probably more people in here that know me than I am aware of, but they know I don't like pilots because I was pilot for 40 years, and I know what pilots are motivated by. And so I don't like pilots. I don't like Pontius Pilate. But, yeah, I need to laugh too. In fact, I like to quote old music, lighten up while you still can. Yeah, that's the Eagles, 1972, on a street in Winslow, Arizona. Such a fine sight to see. It's a girl, my lord, in a flatbed Ford, and she's slowing down to take a look at me. So we'll get off the music. This guy, John McCain II, who died in August of 1981 of a heart attack because he knew he was a traitor, he covered up the USS Liberty incident. And the USS Liberty incident was neither an incident nor was it an accident. LBJ wanted to get into a two-theater war. And so he told McNamara and some other people, including some four-star admirals who are traitors, to attack the Liberty in concert with the Israelis who were flying Egyptian paint jobs. They were not Egyptian airplanes, they were Israeli airplanes built in France, but they were sporting Egypt's colors. He wanted to get into a war, LBJ. He talked to the admiral here's where some people that know history would correct me. He talked to an admiral in the Navy and said, can you put a submarine out there by the Liberty to torpedo it if the Israelis don't take it down? And people in the military are so motivated by rank or fame or money or all. And I hope that the enlisted people that may enlist in the military in the next 20 years understand that their leadership is flawed, but there's still a few wild cards out there that are their advocates. But when you got a president from Texas who participated in killing Kennedy, if you're not aware of that, he wanted to kill Kennedy. In fact, there's a lot of parallels between LBJ and LBJ was the vice president. Oh, wow, here we go. Here comes pedophilia. In the most recent election, we had two vice presidential candidates that were pedophiles. I'll leave that for later. I'm going to nail that one on Sunday. And the reason is because they want people that are controllable, the globalists and the bankers. They want people they can control, so they'll put somebody like Allen in office, or they might put Mark in office. They'll let them settle down for 30 to 90 days, then they'll take them out, as in, boom, boom, you're dead. And now they got a pedophile who's going to do anything. And my sister, by the way, who's the second most evil person in the United States of America, I exposed her in a courtroom in Wisconsin on the 21st of August of 2014. I was in the jury box. The judge, who was a flake, and it's a matter of record, so if he doesn't like my mouth, well, he knows where I live. The judge says, before I release the alternative jurors, is there anybody in the jury box that has a direct personal relationship with pedophilia? Notice no expression? You saw it. There's no expression, was there? So he thinks He thinks I'm going to drink his Kool-Aid. He said, oh, he looked at his cheat sheet. These guys aren't, oh, wait a minute. Oh, I was going to ask if there's any attorney or judges in the room. Never mind, I don't want to embarrass you. You can get even later. Good luck with that. Anyway, he looked at his cheat sheet, 12 names, 12 seats, and so he seems really intelligent. He says, oh, Mr. McConnell, isn't it? I felt like saying, got a great cheat sheet there. But I said, yes, Field McConnell. He says, you have a direct personal relationship with pedophilia? Here it comes. I said, yes, Judge, not yes, Your Honor. He's no honor to me. I honor God. I said, yes, Judge, my sister and Hillary Clinton run the largest international pedophile fulfillment center and the largest national pedophile fulfillment center. And the judge, who's supposed to be professional, and I just want to show you, there's others who are not professional, but you got leaders and you got followers, and this judge was a follower. When I said, yes, Hillary Clinton and my sister Christine Marcy with a K, they run the pedophilia trade in the world. This is a judge with at least a high school education. He goes, too much information, you're excused. I felt like saying, yeah, and you're not going to be excused, but I got up and walked out because I didn't want to waste time and play their games. So anyway, the pedophilia thing has been, and I know we're doing McCain's, but the pedophilia thing has been the glue that's kept the global cabal that's trying to serve Satan and destroy good people. Would anyone in this room, other than the two people that want me dead, and I know who you are, and it doesn't bother me, but is there anyone in this room that really likes knowing that the world governments are controlled by a single type of glue called pedophilia? Is there one person that likes that? Good. I didn't want to meet my first person ever that liked pedophilia. And I'm a flawed human, and I'm also, you didn't introduce me as a sinner, but I am, but I'm in good company because so are you. You know, and we're all sinners, but we can be forgiven. Back to McCain, and I'll get the pedophilia guys on Sunday. John McCain's father covered up the Liberty thing because he had to cover up LBJ, and he had to cover up the captain of the USS Amberjack that fired the torpedo to kill the Liberty when the Liberty wouldn't go down. And there are a lot of men killed on the Liberty. I wish there was a Liberty vet in here. I'd love to shake his hand. I'd also like to finish his fight. But when the Liberty didn't go down for the Israelis, who didn't want to do it, and I'll prove that right now, but I got to finish off the Amberjack. The Amberjack shot a torpedo to destroy, oh, here, I'm going to offend some, I think most people in here are believers, but I'm going to offend some of my Christian brothers and sisters right now by quoting LBJ. His marching orders given to McNamara, he said, and I apologize, but I have to be historically pure. I want that goddamn boat on the bottom. Oh, nice mouth, LBJ. Yeah, and who cares about the boat? What about the crewmen? What about the enlisted people who thought they were serving the United States of America? What about people like me that took an oath to defend against any enemy, foreign or domestic? Oh, here's some foreign enemies. Barack Obama. I went to his high school. His name is not Barack Obama. My sister gave him his passport when it changed from his second name, which was, it was similar, but his first name was Barry Spatero, and he went to my high school, Punahou. And my sister gave him a passport in 1994 that said Barack Obama, and then they ran him through the dog and pony show, and they turned him into someone who's acting like a president. He's not very presidential, and neither is his husband. Yeah. Has anybody in this room seen the videotape that was taken yesterday of Michael scratching his junk? Believe me, somebody in this room knows what I'm talking about, and if anybody gets a hold of me and says, I got the junk photo, I'll share it, because what they were trying to do, besides destroy America, which I got a message for, whoops, I got a fly in my eye. Oh, there it's gone. You're not going to destroy America until God says America's going down. And God, America as a nation really deserves to go down. We've kicked him out of our schools. We've kicked him out of our halls of government. We've kicked him out of our collective mentality. And God's very forgiving, and we're not going down. And I'm going to state that one more time, and this is coming right out of me, my heart, and my head. Donald Trump was ordained to come at a time and save the United States of America for God. Especially the two people in this room that don't like my command of intelligence, who may wish I wasn't speaking right now. No, the truth is the truth. The truth will set us free. The truth is going to set us free. And Donald Trump was ordained by God himself to come at this time and to save our nation. And he knows the risk. And he's had numerous attempts on his life already. I don't know if that's been in the media because I don't read the media. But not only has he been, they've tried to take him out a couple times. They've also tried to take out General Joseph Dunford. He's a four-star Marine general who is trying his best to work with James Mattis, and I'm not drinking any Kool-Aid. If I name these names respectfully, my mind's still open. I'll hammer them later. But as of today, Donald Trump, General Dunford, General Mattis, and General John Kelly are working very hard to save our country, which is my country, which is your, this land is your land, this land is my land, from the coast of, anyway. Yeah, well, our country's going to be saved, and maybe that's why I'm here to share that good news. And if I'm wrong, I'm simply wrong. But if I'm wrong, I don't want to be here. I want to go to heaven. And I am going, but I'm not going before I finish off the third McCain. Yeah. So anyway, John McCain, the man in the middle, which brings up some thoughts that aren't appropriate. But anyway, the second McCain, he's totally responsible for covering up the Liberty. I think we're being videotaped, aren't we? Anybody know? Well, try to cover this up. You know, what are you going to do about this? LBJ, John McCain, the admirals who were in charge of the Navy, and the captain of the Amberjack who pulled the, he didn't pull the trigger, but he said, shoot, fire it. And, you know, if you think God's not all powerful, listen to this. That's an old auxiliary ship. It should have been easily taken down by one torpedo. It would have been if it hadn't happened to hit. There's certain ribs in ship construction, vertical ribs, that are super reinforced. It's sort of like our bodies. We have ribs, and they protect some of the important stuff, except for Helen Ginsburg or whatever her name. What is her name? Ruth. She's so easy to forget. Yeah. Anyway, the treason captain of the Amberjack said fire. They fired a torpedo and it hit a reinforced part of the ship and glanced off. They could have fired another. Is anybody in here from the Navy, and would you know how many torpedoes they typically would carry? Well, more than one. And they would have shot again because they could see instantly they hadn't rendered it dead in the water. I mean, it was dead in the water, but it wasn't dead in the water. Okay, does anybody know at this point in the story what ship came across the horizon steaming at flank speed towards the USS Liberty? Does anybody know? Please share it if you do. It was a Russian ship. Now, a lot of you people are young, but a lot of people in here have snow on the mountain. And we've been told that the Russians are our enemy. No, they're not. If you check history, Russia's salvaged us numerous times. And on the 8th of June of 1967, a young enlisted man saw that they knew their radios. They weren't communicating. They were blind, deaf, and dumb, effectively. And one young enlisted man, who was probably 21, saw a power cord that had been separated by the gunfire. And while the gunfire is still coming from not only the surface things, but the French Mirages, which were really Israelis painted in Egyptian paint, he went out there. He wasn't ordered to do it. Some people will wait for an order. Some people are moved. My wife has a gun. It's called a Henry repeater. And on the Henry repeater, that's to honor volunteer firemen, it says, most people run from danger, some run to it. Well, there's people in this room right now that think I'm putting myself in danger by speaking the truth in front of a recording. No, I'm not. God put me here, and God will sustain me. And if somebody doesn't like it, look in the mirror, because you may have a problem. You may not have your heart totally in the corner of the United States of America, in God, or in the service of young men and women, 17 to 21, who signed up to protect this country from all enemies, foreign and domestic. Now, yeah, I was 17 when I stood up and said, I will. My father was 15, and when he was 15, he was 6'3", and his mother was poor, and she was a single mother, and he joined the Marine Corps at age 15. And his mother, who was poor, liked to play bridge, and a bridge partner said, where's the kid? Well, he joined the Marine Corps. And they said, he's only 15. Those three women, bless their hearts, they called the Marine Corps and said, you got a guy named Glenn McConnell? Yeah, he's only 15. So they sent him back. And, you know, and there's a message in that. God will protect us even from ourselves. I wish we had more time. I'd tell you about how I should have been killed in an F-16 based on my doing something that was a little bit unprofessional, but most of you people are aware I was not killed in an F-16, but I should have been. But God had a plan for me. So anyway, the Amberjack tried to shoot the Liberty. They didn't get it done. John McCain was sent in to cover up for McNamara and LBJ's treasons. Why did LBJ wanted to escalate Vietnam? Okay. Does one single person in this room know why LBJ wanted to escalate Vietnam? Anybody? What? Mark, what did they? Well, back in the, say, 63, 64 time frame, Colt Firearms was building automatic weapons, Bell Helicopters was building Hueys, and Ling Temco Vought, which is now called something else. They changed the names to assuage or obfuscate their guilt. Okay, well, let's get right on General Electric. General Electric played a very big part in 9/11. The CEO, who had the highest insurance of any corporation in America, his name was, that's not a medical thing. That's lunch or whenever I ate last. General Electric's former CEO, Jeffrey Immelt, I-M-M-E-L-T, he probably doesn't like me because I know how much insurance was, and I know why he needed that much insurance because I know what GE did on 9/11. And many of you do too. But they droned a bunch of Boeing airplanes that were used in 9/11. And I had a highly placed official at Boeing here. My wife's back here, and she, if you don't want to believe me, you can ask her. She heard the conversation. And I said in front of a crowd like this that on 9/11, the Boeing drones were all being flown by the Boeing uninterruptible autopilot. And in the chat room of the very unprofessional but lethally accurate radio show I do twice a week, a guy said, he's in the chat room, he says, Field, you're full of something. And I said, yeah, I've heard that a lot, more specific. He says, I'm in a position at Boeing to know what's in our airplanes, and there's no such thing called a Boeing uninterruptible autopilot. And I said, would you like to have 60 years of patent history from 1953 to 2013, and I'll send it to you right now. He said, I'd really like to have that. Within a day, he contacted me privately via email. He said, Field, I'd like to apologize for saying you're full of bovine excrement. And I said, well, that's no problem. A lot of people, what's going on in our country is beyond belief, and it's hard to, you can't just take a bite of a Snickers bar and now you got energy. You might have to take a few bites. You might have to have a little milk, a little pablum. But I said, the Boeing uninterruptible autopilot is the single weapon used against America on 9/11 that allowed Hillary Clinton and my sister, Christine Marcy, and General Electric and John McCain to attack our country and blame it on a bunch of hapless Muslims. Do I love Muslims? I love everybody. I don't love liars, I don't love traitors, but being Muslim, being white, being black, being old, being young, being gay, being straight, none of these things, or Republican and Democrat, if any of you still believe that baloney, but that doesn't make you a good person or a bad person. And the Muslims were vilified because a couple of presidents and other muckety-mucks wanted to go into 7 countries in 7 years. I think I could be off, could be 7 countries in 5 years, and they wanted to just effectively, not physically, but effectively destroy the country so they can take it over. Well, they didn't get it done, and they're not going to get it done, but boy, did they kill a lot of millions of people innocently, and that's sort of my motivation. So we're supposed to be talking about McCain, aren't we, Alan? Yeah. Okay, back to the dead McCain with the 2 bullet holes. And first of all, if anybody in here knows for sure it was not 2 bullet holes, just slide up next to me and let me know somehow. You can hand me a card, you can tell my wife, you can tell Pastor Mark Braveheart. But I don't want to repeat things that are false, because the bad team, they repeat. You hear it so many times. It was on Channel 4 at 6, it's on Channel 6 at 4, it's on Channel 10 at 11. It's got to be true. No, they repeat lies. And we have all collectively, communally, globally, if anybody needs to leave, don't worry, I'm not going to slow down for you guys. But if anybody wants to leave, you're not going to offend me, so leave if you need to. But am I here to defend Muslims? No, I'm here to defend innocent people who are being killed, maimed, oppressed. I wish I had Luke 4:18, because it talks about oppression. Not depression, oppression. We're all being, if there's anybody in here that doesn't think you're being oppressed, get a hold of me later and let's chat for 5 seconds. We're all being oppressed one way or the other, and the universal oppressment we're suffering is misinformation, disinformation, and lies. And the great lie has been around for hundreds of years. I'm not a history guy. In fact, I'm really just, well, you're looking at me, you judge me for yourself what I am. But one thing I am is an unpredictable and lethal geriatric gunslinger for God. And if I see any enemies of God, or if I see innocent people being, wait a minute, I know a lady I'd like to see if she's here. Is there a Hazel in here? Ha, she's busted. Yeah, I met Hazel, and she's really a nice lady, but you know, you can't be everywhere at once. So, excuse me?
Just laugh.
Yeah, well, we should laugh. Why should we cry? So what if we've had 250 years? Anybody going to be here on Sunday and listen to when I talk at 11:30? I got 3 emails overnight that everybody needs to hear. But I don't have permission yet. Go ahead, please ask.
I have a question about that uninterruptible autopilot.
Sure.
Was that, do you have intel on that being part of that Indonesian flight that went straight down? Or what can we do to get those out of our aircraft?
There's only one thing you can do, and they don't have the nerve to do it. The United States government has to admit that was the one weapon that made 9/11 work. Then they have to talk to the airline companies, the FAA, the NTSB, the FBI, and a bunch of these other high-priced bellhops, and they have to admit they've known it all along, and I am qualified to make that statement because I told them. I told them at 21:59 and 10 seconds on Sunday night, the 10th of December of 2006. And Bob Mueller, anybody know that name? Anybody still believe in it? No. He's really bad. I sent a message to Bob Mueller in 14 February 2007, and I said, hey, Bob, you might have noticed over in Indonesia, Atom Air 574 went down over the water, out of control, and killed a bunch of people on the 1st of January. And I said, I was trying to help him. I thought he might be okay. And I gave him code. I mean, not like Navajo code. I said, I just made a statement, and this letter's on the internet. There's people in this room that have read the letter. I said, Atom Air 574 will not be the last haul loss. Most of you people know that in Indonesia, 29th of October, which is just 10 days ago, another Indonesian airplane went out of control and killed everybody. It was going 600 miles an hour straight down when it hit the water. And the official story is the impact with the water caused there to be very little evidence. I'm not going to argue that in front of a camera yet, but I will in 10 minutes. They destroy the evidence with Smacksonic, which is a French and UK developed insulation that's actually rocket fuel. And insulation is trilaminar, which is big, and I'm a high school graduate, but college boys tell me, Jason, did you go to college? Yeah. Should have stayed for 2 more years. You got to know your audience, and Yeah, but the insulation that they were sticking in Boeing airplanes in the run-up to 9/11, it was actually rocket fuel, and it was a white layer, a black layer, and a white layer. And the two white layers, when you introduce an electrical charge, when they short, they ignite the rocket fuel, and guess what happens to the airplane? Which airplane? Well, United 175, United 93, American 11, American 77, which my college classmate Chick Burlingame was flying. He did not hit the Pentagon. He did not surrender his aircraft to Muslims, and he is dead. And I've been to his grave, and I wonder what's in there, because I hope I don't offend his survivors, but I don't think there was much left of him, because it was detonated in Whiskey 386 Alpha airspace under the control of a U.S. Navy weapons controller, airspace controller, whose call sign, get a load of this, the call sign was Giant Killer. They try to send, well, let me put my hat on. They try to send us signals all the time that what they're going to do, and I've got a hat on right now that says USS America. I'm going to name 3 out of 4. Bill Clinton, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, John Shalashkashvili, the son of a Waffen-SS Nazi, and Gordon England, the Secretary of the Navy. Hey, Gordy boy, come and get it. You know, get in line, and then I'll turn around and you can do what you need to do, which is kiss my rear. But these guys, they sent a signal to America. Does anybody in this room know for sure? And I don't. But I think they sank the USS America around 2005, 2006. But they planned it long before that, because when Bill Clinton and Gordon England and John Shalashkashvili, who was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, whose father was a Waffen-SS Nazi, and there's a lot, I could go on for days with people that are effective Nazis who are in our own government. But I don't want to collude, or I don't want to commingle the bushes with anybody else. But there's a lot of them out there, and the truth is going to take them all down. And some people are lucky, like John McCain. He got executed before he had to face execution. That's not possible, is it? So anyway, he didn't have to hang around for Gitmo like my sister. But one of the things I've heard a lot in this gathering is, when is Trump going to start acting on those sealed indictments? And my answer to that, and don't take this to the bank, I think he's acting already. And if my sister, Christine Marcy, is alive and well, why don't you call your little brother? Because until you call me, I'm just going to assume that you're where you should be, in Gitmo or gone. And I've written those very words to President Trump. I wrote them to Ben Carson. Now, you know Ben Carson, the medical doctor, the brain surgeon, is not this color, right? And I'm not a doctor, but he's a good guy, I believe. He saves lives. And I hope that if some of my words help convict some of these badasses, so be it. But I'm here to try to save lives going forward. I'd like, if anybody hasn't turned their life over to Jesus yet, if you talk to Pastor Braveheart, would you just hold your hand up? Yeah, you can talk to him. He'll lead you to the Bible, where it says in Romans 3:23 and Romans 6:23 that you're not alone. We're all sinners, but there's a way out. Okay, have I finished off? No, I haven't finished off John McCain, the third traitor. He was really a flunky. He should have flunked out. Well, I should have too. I'm not being hypocritical. I did not have the academic background. I didn't have the discipline. I didn't have the study habits. I should never have gotten into Annapolis, but I got in because a 4-star Air Force general, whose name I don't like to name names like Hunter H. Harris IV, but Hunter H. Harris IV, like my father, and my father said, you know, my son would really like to go to one of the service academies, and General Harris, I'll deal with him later, but he's dead, don't worry, he won't feel it. Well, actually, he may. But Hunter Harris said, well, where would he like to go? Which one of the academies would he most like to go to? And my father probably, if he was being honest, said, well, I'd like him to go to the Air Force Academy, which I wouldn't have any interest in, because back then they were having a cheating scandal. And my dad probably said, well, he'd sort of like to go to the Naval Academy, because that way he could be a Navy or Marine fighter pilot, which is what I wanted to do. But I got in there. Somebody lied to get me into Annapolis. Okay, here's the problem with that. Because if I wasn't qualified to get in there and I didn't have the skill set to graduate, I shouldn't graduate, which means they would have wasted a slot on some maggot like me. But guess what? I was at least 300 or 400 numbers ahead of John McCain. And he's deader than a well-deserving doornail, and I'm still here. Now, should I have gotten out? No, I shouldn't. I should have flunked out. My attitude's not exactly cut out of the same bolt of fabric as a lot of people, but I wasn't created to be a four-star general. I wasn't created to be the world's best fighter pilot. And I didn't know what I was created to do until God tapped me on the shoulder on Monday, December 4th of 2006, and said, expose evil. Now, a lot of you might think I'm being rude if I were to take my belt off, and then of course you're wondering, well, what's coming next? Well, pardon me, noise, that's what's coming next. On the back of this belt buckle, it says Ephesians 5:11, and it says, have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. God told me once. He doesn't have to tell me twice. So that's why I'm here. John McCain, the little one, the short guy that just got a couple of rounds to the head for 6 cases of treason and 1 of sedition. If you're going to lie about being the bottom guy in the class of 900, and that's inaccurate, he was 893. But also back then, I don't know if there's any other Naval Academy, Air Force Academy, West Point people, but back in 1958, you could not be selected to be a pilot if you were that low in the class because it's competitive. They call you down 50 at a time and say, well, you're number 1. What would you like to be? In my class, number 1 became the leader of the Challenger. His name was Leesma, L-E-E-T-S-M-A. He is really bright. Bright is not my skill. I'm not really bright, but I'm bright enough to put everyone in our government in jail with very, very few exceptions. If I know they're traitors, they know they're traitors, and if they're in their first 2 years as a congressman or their first 6 as a senator, they can claim ignorance. Not anymore, pals. I just fingered you. Or has that exposed you? Well, anyway, the people that are getting paid a lot, and you know they get a pretty good retirement the day they leave, they're not representing us. They're not representing our values. They are working with basically the monarch of the United Kingdom and the Vatican Jesuits. And I didn't say anything bad about the Vatican. I can, if you want that. You'll see it Sunday. I didn't say anything bad about Catholicism, which is united or one world religion. I think, well, Mark, is that accurate, you think? Yeah, Catholic, what does Catholic mean? Well, if we have a universal God, we don't need a universal church. We just need to listen and do what we're told. But enough about that. John McCain, the guy that recently died, and my wife Denise, who's back there, and a lady who may be here named Kathy McHale, or McHaley, from New York City, who has brothers who have died before their time for breathing the this is nuts. I'm not smart enough to even spell this. Pyroclastic dust in New York City, that white stuff, the cloud of dust that was moving horizontally, you breathe that and you're going to die. And who did that to those innocent firemen? Oh, by the way, speaking of firemen, 343 innocent New York City firemen perished when the towers came down. And Rudy Giuliani changed their radios out just days before, going from digital to analog, which is a backup in, she's nodding her head over here, thank you. Yeah, in other words, there's people, and Rudy may be one of them. I don't know if he's that dumb or he's that corrupt. And I'm not judging him, I'm just exposing him. I'll expose everyone in America that needs to be exposed. And then if there's anybody left in our judicial system, now let's see, Jeff Sessions left, what's her name, broke her ribs. They can't get away with this much longer. God is patient, God is forgiving, but he's not going to watch his people suffer forever. He's just not going to do it. So anyway, John McCain is alleged, and there's people in this room that will argue this, and go ahead, argue. Just get invited to some other conference, don't argue it here. He was involved in something, and I don't know if it was July 20th, July 29th, but it was July of '67. It was called the USS Forrestal, and a lot of glib people like me said that, well, the ship's the forest fire, because they had a fire that killed 100, I think it's 167 men in July of 67. There are critics of McCain out there, but there's no critic out there that's more lethal than me, I hope. And if there's somebody more lethal than me about exposing the treasons of the three McCains, I'd love to meet you, shake your hand, and defer and turn my time over to you. But when the sun came up, and that morning in July of 67, on the Forrestal, there would have been about 5,000 men. And when the sun went down, there were, I think the number is 167, there were 168 less men on the Forrestal. The 167 who had died, and most of them were still on the ship, they'd gone to their reward. But there was one person and one person only that wasn't dead, that was helicoptered off the ship. Anybody want to guess? John McCain's father knew that John McCain would be given a blanket party. Anybody that was ever in the Navy or the Marine Corps know what I just said. A blanket party is when you go grab a guy like in that teal-colored shirt and you make him realize he made a serious judgment error, because people in the Navy, it's, crowded, a lot of people, not much space. They might have 6 guys, 8 guys in one little cubicle, and they even do something called hot racking or hot bunking, where you might have 3 shifts of guys, and it's yours for 8 hours, and somebody's going to come here and, and kick you out. And then but anyway, a blanket party is, what do you call those guys in the Wild West that took care of business? And I can't remember, but vigilantes. A blanket party in the Navy or the Marine Corps is somebody is not a team player, and you go in while he's asleep, you wrap his blanket around him, you carry him up to the side of the ship, and you throw him overboard. And if you just want to beat him into a pound of ground beef before you throw him overboard, well, that's okay too, because, and this is what could have happened to John McCain if his cowardly father hadn't gotten his treasonous derriere off the ship. The enlisted men on that ship could have given him a blanket party. And I'm here, and I'm not proud of this, but I was an officer. And I was never an enlisted person. My dad was, my son is. But in 1961, in November, I was at an amusement park with my father, and we were the only 2 guys on the roller coaster, and a young black gentleman, I thought he was old. I was 11. This guy would have been about 35. I thought he was old. As he came to take our tickets and put the safety bar down, his verbatim quote, I remember it from 1961, probably November, and this young black man, and I was raised when black people and white people were not supposed to love each other. Those days are over. This young black man put the bar down, and he said to my father, my dad tried to hand him 2 tickets. My father said, here's our tickets. And the young black man said, no thanks, Colonel Mack, this one's on me. And then we chug up the hill. And I've always been sort of careful in my speaking. Like, I would never, ever mention that Hillary Clinton and my sister are both hybristophiliac lesbians. You wouldn't hear that from me, because I'm very careful. But I don't react to everything I hear the first time I hear it, but I said to my dad, how did that man know that you're in the Air Force? And my father said this. He said, that man's an enlisted man in the Air Force, and he's married and he has children, and our government does not pay them enough as enlisted people to raise a family. So that black man who knows me, because I'm his white pilot, he takes care of my airplane, and then he has to come here to work to feed his family. And he says, Field, if you ever grow up, which was a serious question, he says, if you ever grow up and you get in the military and you're an officer, don't take care of the people senior to you. He said, turn around and look at the people that are trying to find leadership and lead them. And he said, don't worry about the guy senior to you. They can take care of themselves. Well, a lot of them can't, and that's why I'm here talking about 4-star generals who have committed treason. Let's get right over to Obama and extortion 17, then we'll get back to finishing off McCain. On the 6th of August of 2011, Barack Obama, Leon Panetta, who was Secretary of Defense, General Martin Dempsey, where have we heard that name before? Oh yes, he covered up He covered up the assassination of Pat Tillman. Those three guys, let's do them again. Obama, he was the commander-in-chief. Leon Panetta, the Secretary of Defense, and he's still alive. Hope he can hear me. A guy, number 3 would have been Martin Dempsey, chairman of the Joint Chiefs. A guy who I haven't identified him yet, but he probably will hear this, and his military call sign was G87 Opie. For those of you who think, I'm glad you're taping this, thanks, Jason. If any of you think, oh, I want to be, listen, I want to be corrected or I want to be dealt with. And neither of those things has happened yet. Now, I may get some correction out of this group, and I'm soliciting it. If I've made one statement that's not accurate, please help me, because somebody else might pay me $3 to come speak. G87 Opie. Opie is the red-haired kid that was on Andy Griffiths. Okay, he was the military 3-star that helped kill 38 men and a dog named Bart. I'm not being facetious. There was a SEAL service dog named Bart, and his remains were commingled with the remains of 38 men, and I could name several of them, but I'm only going to name one. And Special Operations Chief, that's an enlisted rank, Aaron Carson Vaughn, was murdered by Obama on the 6th of August of 2011. And if Sissy Girl doesn't like my mouth, well, Sissy Girl and her husband can come talk to me face to face. But you better bring some friends, because it's going to be a short conversation. But see, these people on that helicopter, which was an Army Chinook, they were responding to some overwhelming firepower in the name of that valley that escapes me, but everybody knows it. And they allegedly, those men allegedly were shot down by some RPGs, rocket-propelled grenades, fired from a tower with 2 unknown assailants. Oh, they're not unknown, they're known. But allegedly, some enemies of America shot down that helicopter. God, calm me down, because with what the United States government of America did to Billy and Karen Vaughn's boy, Aaron, if you weren't so good at calming me down, I'd be livid and I might have a heart attack and not finish off the McCains. But there's no heart attack coming yet. The aircraft got up to 125 feet. Let me back up and tell you how I know this. Billy and Karen Vaughn called me in the morning in May of 2014 and said, hey, you've been talking about our son, Aaron Carson Vaughn, and Extortion 17. And I said, yes, I have, and I'm going to continue to talk, but is there anything I can do for you? Yeah, we'd like to come talk to you. And I said, well, your accent sounds a lot like Tennessee, and I'm in Wisconsin. Are you in Tennessee? He said, no, I'm born in Tennessee. I live in Florida, but I'm at the Minneapolis airport with my wife. And I said, well, as a courtesy to you and the loss, I'm going to say this real clearly. Billy and Karen Vaughn, the loss of your son at the hands of Obama is something that I am willing to fight to the death. And I said, not only that, because I'm a spooky person and people don't understand me, maybe you'd like me to drive to Minneapolis, or maybe you'd like to drive to Plum City, Wisconsin, population 599, if nobody's died. Wait a minute, 597, Denise and I are here. I said, you can come to Plum City, or I'll come to you, or we can meet in the middle. And no offense, but he's from Tennessee. He goes, well, sir, I'd like to come over there with my wife and talk to you there. And I said, well, come on over. I said, what time are you leaving the hotel? And he looked at his watch. He said, we're going to have breakfast. We'll be leaving here like, say, 9:15. And I said, well, then you'll get here at 10:15, but at 10 o'clock, I'll be sitting. I won't be sitting. I'll be standing by a 1995 presidential limousine at 401 Main Street, and I'll see you coming. But if I miss you, when you see the big, long black Cadillac and some deranged geriatric, that's me. So stop. So, and they did. They stopped, and we went in and at 401 Main Street, which some people in this room have been to, including Jason and Mark and Denise, my wife, and Kathy from New York City, and a lot of other people. But I said, you know, I'm terribly sorry, and I'm moved to tears about the fact that our president killed your son. But I said, so are you, so let's get over that. And you tell me everything you know. The reason they wanted to talk to me, they thought I'd be able to tell them how they killed their son. So I said, I know what you want. You want me to analyze how they killed your son. So I said, I know it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard for me to listen to. It's got to be terribly hard for you to talk about. But just take turns, and when one of you can no longer speak, then the other one take over, and when I've figured out how they killed your son, I'll tell you. And so they took turns, and they gave the part about the 3 rocket-propelled grenades, and they gave me a verbatim number of feet above the ground, AGL, above ground. And it was Karen, the mother, talking, and she said, and when they got to 125 feet, an RPG went under the rear main rotor, a second RPG went through the main rear rotor and took off 14 feet of one of the blades, which throws it out of balance, which means a helicopter with an imbalanced rotor is going to beat itself to death. That's just the way it is. And so it did. And then there was a third RPG that went over the top. And I said, okay, stop right there. Karen, did you say the first RPG went under, the second RPG went through, and the third RPG went above it? And she said, yes. And I said, well, it's my non-expert opinion that the first RPG was not aimed properly. The second one took out 14 feet of the main rear rotor, which caused the destruction of the aircraft. And the third one was a signal to whoever was killing your son to detonate the explosives that were on board the aircraft. And I'm glad you did that. Would you hold your hand up? You know who yeah. This guy, what he just did is what Karen and Billy did. It was closure. And they knew somehow that they were hearing the truth. And so I said, Karen, I hate to do this, but I'll be pretty sure I know exactly how they did it. As soon as you answer this question, take as long as you want, it's going to be hard. And I looked at him, and it's really hard to do. I'm going to look at you because you're not Karen, and you because you're not Billy. I looked at him. I can't look at 2 people at once, but I can do that. I said, I really hate to ask you this, but could one of you tell me the condition of the bodies when the first responders got there? And Karen Vaughn, hold me accountable. Karen answered the question with one word: soup. And I said, Karen, did you say soup? And she said, yes. I said, well, I'm going to start crying here in a minute, but before I do, are you telling me that the 38 men and the dog were reduced to liquid? And she said, yes, the only part of our son, Aaron Carson Vaughn, Special Operations Chief, United States Navy, killed by Obama on the 6th of August of 2011, the only recognizable part of our son was the rear half of his skull with his NVGs. I'm not a name dropper. NVG, night vision goggles. The rear half of his skull had his NVGs driven through the frontal part of his head, and that's the only part they returned to us. And I said, Billy and Karen, we can stop right there. The first RPG was a bad shot. The second RPG did lethal damage to the helicopter, and the third one was a signal to detonate the explosives that were carried out at the last minute by 7 Afghani mules, and I don't mean donkeys. 7 Afghani friendlies were boarded, and they didn't know they had flak jackets on. They didn't know it's all explosives. I said the third RPG was a signal for the other rat bastard who killed your son to detonate it. And I said, there's no way an aircraft of any kind can fall from 125 feet to the ground and create soup. I said they were blown apart with explosives that were carried on by the Afghanis who didn't know they were carrying them. And if anybody in Afghanistan thinks I'm criticizing you, no, I'm not. I'm exonerating you. These men did not know they were carrying explosives, and they didn't know that they were about ready to be martyred. And that would, if I had a sense of humor, I'd say, if you're a martyr farker, you better not fark with me. But, you know, this is a serious game. When people in the government or people in the military are charged with the responsibility of defending our population, Well, starting, what day is today? It's November 9th. Tomorrow's the Marine Corps birthday, and November 11th is Veterans Day. Starting soon, perhaps on November 11th, we're going to have a new matrix, and we're going to have better leadership. We've already got better leadership, I believe, and I'm not political, in the White House. We've got 3 Marine generals who are doing an awful lot of the heavy lifting and critical thinking. And if I ever hear of another single, and I don't mean married or single, if I hear of another enlisted person that dies or is grievously injured or PTSD'd, well, my name's Field McConnell. I'm going to leave out the 8222. My name's Field McConnell, 715-8XXX. And if any parents have any of their children harmed by the United States military leadership, feel free to call me, because what I've done, I'm going to sing a song here in a minute, what I've done for Aaron Carson Vaughn and his mother Karen and his father Billy, I'll do for you. And there's a song, and you know where I'm going. It is no secret what he can do. What he's done for others, he'll do for you. And I'm here as an invasive surgeon, and on Sunday, I could be a proctologist and rip I'm going to do a little non-surgical procedure and rip some new openings on some really bad people. I don't want to steal my own thunder, so I don't want to say Hillary Clinton, George H.W. Bush, Christine Marcy, Nancy Pelosi, the lady with all the face straps, whatever her name was. By the way, anybody from Texas know that when Fort Hood had the Muslim, Nancy Pelosi's family was part of it, and I'm not making that up. I can make stuff up. I'm really good at making stuff up, but I'm also really, really good at telling the truth. And our nation's under attack. It's under attack by a lot of people like my sister that are knowingly serving Satan, and because they don't know God, they don't know that God has the final word, and nothing would please me more than if the final words could be spoken on Veterans Day of 2018 at 11 o'clock, because when World War I ended, the armistice, it was signed and executed at 11 on the 11th day of the 11th month, and this year we have a bonus 11. Anybody got a 4th grade degree in math? 2018, it's got a 2, it's got a 1, and it's got an 8. 2, 1, and 8. Okay, bend over, because here it comes. On the 11th of the 11th of the 11th of the year that adds up to 11, I am challenging the leadership of this country to protect young enlisted men and women and provide them with moral. That's not to say the leadership has to have never sinned. I've done almost everything except rape and murder. But I'm not going to do either one of those, but I will perform some, it's going to be invasive surgery on 11/11/11 of the year that adds up to 11, because this is my country, and I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're this phony baloney. I was going to use a vulgar term for a male homosexual named Tony Blair. He's trying... What a fruitcake. He's trying to stick his nose back in the UK leadership. The UK has no leadership. They got Theresa May, who I'm trying to entertain here a little as we get to the final part of this, but Theresa May has a nickname, Cucumber Girl. I'm the guy that gave her that name, because my wife's from England, and I try to be accurate in everything. I am accurate in everything I say, but I put in Theresa May and England, and up came a porn star whose name is not T-H-E-R-E-S-A, it's T-E-R-E-S-A, and she's in the town right next to my wife. Her name was Theresa May, and if anybody were to go read about her, she is a porn actress, and she has some relationship to cucumbers. And Theresa May, the Prime Minister, once was put on the spot in a deal like this where there's cameras running. Excuse me, Prime Minister May, I've seen your name and cucumbers recently. Do you know where that comes from? And I'm dead serious. She said with the cameras running, you know, I've seen that too, and I don't know where it comes from. So I thought, oh, interesting. And I put in, I've got her email address, and I said, Theresa May, I'm the one who started that because I made a mistake, and when I Googled your name without an H, up came a porn star who has maybe she's a vegetable gardener, I don't know. But she has some relationship with cucumbers. But I also have a fairly strong disrespect for Theresa May. I have an equally strong disrespect for her predecessor, David Cameron, who seemed to have inappropriate interest in pigs or pork, and Tony Blair, who over there they call him Tony B. Liar. The leadership of Germany, France, Holland, Belgium, the United Kingdom, Canada, and the United States is horrid. Collectively, they're serving Satan. And a couple thousand years ago, Jesus Christ walked into the temple of the money changers, and I don't think he said, excuse me, do you mind if I just delicately place your tables outside this temple? Mark, do you have any idea what was Jesus' behavior when he went in there to deal with the money changers? Well, then, is it okay if we close now? I can go on until I drop dead, but I think we've been here enough, haven't we? Yeah. Okay, go ahead. I'll take all the questions you want, and then we're going to have Pastor Mark close with a prayer. Somebody over there, I see you. Go ahead.
Just a follow-up question about McCain.
Could you hear that, Mark?
Follow-up question on McCain.
Do you know why?
Clinton?
McCain.
Oh, John McCain? Yeah, you got a question. I got an answer. What is it?
A follow-up question about the execution. Why was he specifically ushered through over maybe Hillary or Bill or one of the Bushes? Any idea why?
You mean why he went first? Yeah. Well, I'll tell you why he should go first. He's a 3-generation liar, and he was putting enlisted men in danger. His father put the Liberty sailors
Okay,
in.
so worst of the worst, then, or
What you saying?
Is he the worst of the worst?
Well, I'm not his judge. God is, but he's dead. That's good enough for me. But I think you could make an argument he is the worst of the worst because he should have seen his father's performances and known, I don't want to be like my father. Now, I've been blessed in life. I do want to be like my father. I do want to be like my mother. But more importantly, I want to be like my Heavenly Father, and I want to be true and just. And if there's a single thing that I've said that's inaccurate, I didn't say unkind, but if I've said, ooh, I don't like you anymore. If I've said anything inaccurate, anybody, please feel free to come over. My name's Field. I've got the greatest sense of humor in this room, but I've also got this greatest sense of justice, I think equal to many in this room, not equal to God, and yes, I'll take that question.
Now, well, to follow up on what you were saying about Jesus and the money changers, he also formed a whip out of a rope and also beat the money changers out of the temple. So he didn't just turn the tables over. It said he fashioned a whip too. And when he comes back, he's not coming back as a little meek Jew that's going to die on a cross. He's coming back as King of Kings and Lord of Lords, and he's going to take care of business.
Well, he is the King of Kings. He is the Lord of Lords. He's my creator. He's my maker. He's my father. He's my friend, and he's coming to kick some ass.
Now, the question I had... The question I had was on the helicopter. You're talking about the one where they covered up and killed the SEAL Team 6 because they said that they assassinated Osama bin Laden when he was already dead way back when.
I knew that's where you were going.
Yes.
Yeah, see, Obama beat his chest and said, I'm great and powerful Obama.
Yes.
And he said, I authorized my men to go out and capture Obama and kill him. Well, that would have been great if he hadn't been dead 10 years or more earlier. But here's where some learning is going to take place. Either you're going to correct me or I'm going to inform you. The SEAL Team 6 murder by Obama was because Barry Soetoro and his husband not only had not been invited to the royal wedding, they'd been told by the UK government to stay out of the United Kingdom. We don't want you at our wedding. And Denise, is that accurate? The timing. Yeah, if you check the timing between the royal wedding and the dog and pony show, where this skinny little primate, erect primate, male homosexual prostitute named Barry Soetoro from my high school, Punahou High School, at 1601 Punahou Street, Honolulu, Hawaii. If Barry Boy and his husband Mike, if they don't like my mouth, will come over and stuff your, I almost slipped and said fat blank. Yeah, come over and stuff your fist in my mouth and I'll shut up. But until then, let her rip potato chip. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Thank you very much. Those applause are not for me, they're for the question. Thank you for that question. Who's next? Anybody?
How or why was your sister specifically selected to start the SES? Why her?
Why was your sister selected to start the SES?
Oh, because she served Satan. Let me tell
said a
you,
lot of people.
my sister's name is Christine Marcy, and George H.W. Bush, who he claims he may or may not have ever had a relationship going back to 1953 with the CIA. He can claim whatever he wants. He can claim he's an American. He can claim his name's not Scherf, but he can't claim a place in heaven because that's not where he's going. But I wish he'd head off wherever he's going soon. That would please me a great deal. My sister was a young, she was lied to, like there's women in this room that have been lied to about how you've been held down by a glass ceiling. And that's a bunch of really limp men trying to energize some really gullible women into doing some really regrettable things. Like seek, back then, and I'm that generation, I'm 69, back then these women thought, well, all of these people tell us we've been lied to and we've been oppressed. Let's demand our just due. Well, they missed out on being mothers. If they were mothers, they missed out on staying home with their children. They missed out on discharging the greatest job a female can have, and I'm not sexist. The greatest job and pleasure a male can have is to be a father. And if your plumbing doesn't work, be a stepfather. If that won't work, you know, go out and find somebody that needs leadership. Is Craig Peterson in this room? Hi, Craig. Would you hold your hand up again? Craig Peterson is a leader of men. He's a mentor to high school boys and wrestlers in Phoenix, and he could tell you the name of the school. I don't think it matters. Craig Peterson is another guy in this room, and we're not the only two, but he was an Army Ranger, and I was an embarrassment to the Marine Corps. Truly I was, but I'm not done yet because George H.W. Bush himself gave the order to kill Colonel James Sabo. The order came in on the night of 21 January of 1991. The next morning, a neighbor to Colonel Sabo called him out. They were living next door on El Toro Marine Corps Air Station, where Colonel Sabo and I had appeared in a recruiting magazine. And I can tell everybody in this audience the Marine Corps was not proud of me, but back when I was younger, I guess I was pleasant to look at. So they got Sabo, who was a legitimate hero, and they got me, who looked pleasant for a transport pilot, flying dog shit out of Hong Kong. That's my phone, I think. It is my phone. That was not scripted. Now, I could have. In fact, Craig, I could have asked you to call me. I could have asked Mark. I could have asked Denise. I could have asked Phil. I could have asked Kathy. I didn't do that. The man who called me is well known to most of our group. He's Mad Dog, and he hopes to be able to buy a ranch in Texas and have Denise and I run it for the benefit of veterans, because everyone here wants our veterans to be better served by more legitimate leadership. I think if anybody's foolish enough to I didn't think so. Boy, if somebody had said, if you don't agree with that, raise your hand, you might have seen your hand removed quickly. But, you know, the people that are willing to give up an education or forestall it if they're willing to give up higher earnings, like Pat Tillman, and they go to serve their country against a paper enemy. The United States of America can have no enemies. We're too powerful, and if we have good leadership, and it's been waning for a long, long time, but I've watched it in my career in the military. I've watched the leadership go right in the toilet. Well, let's flush the toilet. Notice I didn't say Obama or his husband. And are you trying to get my attention, or are you scratching your head? Oh, no, he's scratching his head. Good. Any more questions? Did I answer the, oh, wow, Would the mic guy, would you just pick whoever you want to? That way, it's not like me picking.
I was wondering, do you know what percent of the Congress and Senator are being blackmailed?
What percent
What?
of the Congress or the senators are being blackmailed?
Oh, I think I know that, and I think I answered it. Does anybody remember me saying if you're a first-term 2-year congressman or if you're a first-term 6-year senator, you can be excused? Otherwise, if you're hanging around, it's their job to know what I know, and I know how they're being, and I'm very pleased to say that a couple of the people I had no respect for, now I'm not foolish enough to name names like Governor Scott Walker of Wisconsin or Senator Heidi Heidkamp. Well, you can't hide from me, Heidi. And she wanted to get out. She knew she was in trouble. But say North Dakota played a big part in 9/11 too, not in doing it, but in covering it up. And I like to give credit where credit's due and throw hand grenades where they need to be tossed. Senator Byron Dorgan, who was thrown out of a college frat dorm by the squadron commander of the North Dakota Air National Guard, who was 6'4" big and probably wasn't a Rhodes Scholar. But Senator Dorgan was a slimy weasel when he was in college, and Gary Kaiser, who is the guy I just described, 6'4", big, he took Senator Dorgan as a college boy and tossed him out of the window, right out of the window, and it wasn't the first floor. Well, I'm not picking on Byron Dorgan. I'm not picking on Kent, K-E-N-T, Conrad, and I'm certainly not picking on Earl Pomeroy, the congressman, but they were all sold out to the Rockefellers. Which Rockefeller? Okay, I'll tell you. Jay Rockefeller, the former governor of West Virginia. The Wisconsin lame politicians are sold out to the Koch brothers. I have trouble with that, and a lot of people know why. But KOCH, some billionaires that want to control the world. Let me say this, and I hope I'm right, and I hope God strikes me dead if I'm wrong. How's that? Fair enough? Yeah. This is not your country, Bush, Koch, Obama, Clinton, Christine Marcy, John McCain. This is my country, land that I love. This is my country, blessed from above. And if you don't like my mouth, I'm at N3572, County Road S, Plum City, Wisconsin. Bring your A-team. I don't want to sound boastful or like I think I'm going to live forever. I know I'm not going to live forever, but until I'm dead, I'm not going to be quiet, because some of you people are old enough to have sons and daughters in the military. They have horseshit leadership, and that's going to end this Sunday, 11/11/11/11. I can stay until the cows come home, but I don't want to hold anybody up. Are there any other questions? Oh.
Got a question about the 2 Malaysian flights that disappeared. What exactly happened?
Let me stop you already. You're talking about Malaysia 370, and it never disappeared. There's a man in this room. Craig, you still here? Okay, Craig Peterson back there. He knows how unpredictable I am, and he knows how, bold I am, and he knows how honest I am. On the day that Malaysia 370, and the day was the 8th of March of 2014, when it was wrongfully reported to have been lost, Craig Peterson said, oh, Field's going to have fun with this. And he makes a YouTube, and I'll say it really slowly, and everyone, if you're too old to know how to find a YouTube, get your son, your daughter, or your neighbor, and say, could you look up Boeing uninterruptible autopilot? And Craig Peterson, okay, that's it. One more time, and I quit. Maybe this, no, that's not going to work either. Yeah, Craig Peterson made a 5-minute and 40-second YouTube called Boeing Uninterruptible Autopilot, and he made that. It was published on the 9th of March of 2014, but he made it on the 8th of March. But where he was, which I think was in the, were you in the Philippines then? Yeah. By the way, does anyone in this room, other than me, know that a lot of the World War II gold was in the Philippines until recently. Anybody know that? Anybody know where that gold is now effectively? I didn't say physically. Anybody know where the gold was that was in the Philippines effectively right now? Quadrillions, so for math people like me that can't add, you go a million, a billion, a trillion, and a quadrillion. The United States has recently taken physical custody of over a quadrillion in precious metals, and this has happened to our country beneficially under the time that Trump has served. And Trump, I can't speak for him, and he wouldn't want me to, but I think Trump himself knows he's serving God, and he knows that there's some Marines behind him who are taking care of business if it comes to that. So, did I answer your question? It was never missing. It was taken by the Boeing uninterruptible autopilot. It was taken off course. It departed Kuala Lumpur at about a couple minutes after midnight, bound for Beijing. It had several things in the belly. It had some U.S. military classified, not that I would stop talking about it. They had taken control, the bad guys, you know, the ones we're supposed to hate, the Muslims that the bankers want us to kill. Well, I've never killed a Muslim. I never will. I'd be happy to kill a banker or a congressman or a senator if they'd be foolish to come visit me at night. Because some people, it's like a dog that's got a broken leg and it's never going to, it needs to be euthanized. That's for the benefit of the dog. But with the benefit of our leadership, they need to be and I'm not calling for the euthanasia of serving congressmen or congresswomen or senators. I'm calling for them to do the right thing and get the hell out of Washington, and let's send some people in there who know how to take care of business, who know how to serve enlisted people, and are willing to serve God. And I think those days are coming. I know those days are coming. Okay, next question. Or did I finish you off? I know I could talk for 6 years on that.
What was on the plane that was important?
There were numerous things, and I don't know all of them, but it's very rare. I flew for the airlines for 31 years, and it's very rare to load cargo in the passenger compartment. How's that for, did I get anybody's attention? Okay, but in the belly there was military weapons that had been captured, I think, by Iran or Iran, whichever, Iran all the way home, 1959, the Impalas. And it was a black lead singer with a bunch of white guys. There was some stuff that had been captured by the Iranians that were going to be sent to the Chinese so they could take it apart, reverse engineer it, and rebuild it better. Well, they're not doing, first of all, I'm not anti-China, I'm not anti-Russia. I'm going to shock some people. I'm pro-China and I'm pro-Russia because it's my belief right here today, Friday the 9th of November of 2018, that China, with their power financially, with Russia, with their power morally, and the United States now with the fiscal power that's been returned under the Trump administration, we can basically control the world. And the way I think China, Russia, and the United States want to control it is saying no more war. What do we need to war? We've been at war, and this is what I'm going to talk about Sunday. We have been in a state of war since approximately 1863, and that's what's given our phony, baloney, rat bastard, treasonous government the administrative authority to engage in phony wars. But that's going to stop on November 11th of 2018, and I'm not speaking official policy, but there are people that think I'm a geriatric gunslinger or a troublemaker, and I plead guilty to both. And if somebody's trying to hurt America, hurt me first and then walk over the rest of them. Can I give you a business card, and then you give me all the questions you want? And my wife and I, my wife is Denise, she's the blonde lady, and I got to give her, I got to give her credit for keeping me alive, because I am so troubled by the condition of our leadership, our government, our military guys. I know I don't have a card, but yes I do, yes I do. I always like to fulfill every contract I make, and I promised God that I'd kick ass and take names. And I didn't say kiss. I said kick. But I've been blessed many times over. I've been blessed when my father told me in November of 1961, if you ever grow up, which I'm looking forward to, and if you ever get in the military and you're an officer, serve the enlisted people, provide them leadership if you can figure it out. And I had the best example in the world, my father. And the second best example is right back there, Craig Peterson, Army Ranger. And Mark, we have a little unofficial gathering of Christian believers, servants that don't mind getting down and dirty with the rat bastards that have destroyed our country. But he's a lay pastor, but we're going to have a ranch in Texas. We're going to serve veterans first, patriots second, and ultimately God until God calls us home for our reward. And it'll be a gorgeous day when he does that. And I'm looking forward to it. But Denise has given me cause to say, well, maybe another couple years, And she's 16 years younger than me. And, I thank her every day for marrying me. I don't look like somebody you'd want to be married to. But she was led into my life by your question. My wife, Denise, was in England, and she had this feeling like something isn't right about Malaysia 370. So she thought it might be in the auto guidance or the autopilot. And so she would Google, and she can correct you, and she can correct me. But she would sit over there in England and Google Malaysia 370 autopilot, and every time she did it, my name came up. And so I can't speak for her. I can speak of her in nothing but glowing terms. She's the strongest. She's the strongest and the best woman I've ever known, and I've met some wonderful women. My mother was one, my sister was not. There's a lady, my sister, anybody see Linda Blair's head turn around in The Exorcist? Yeah, my sister can do that, and I hope no one in here is so naive as to think I'm being unkind to my sister, whose name is Christine Marcy. No, I'm being faithful to my God. My God said, Field, would you please expose evil? Well, God, how am I doing? Okay, your turn.
Field, the device that was in the airplane, is that device also in our cars, in the buses, in the trains, in our yachts, our boats?
Mark's going to pass your question up here. Go ahead.
They're equivalent to the Boeing uninterruptible autopilot in our cars, our trains,
Yes.
our boats.
Any car, any train, any semi, any ocean-going vessel, they're all auto-controlled, and and we're in Texas, right? Yep. Anybody live southeast of here towards Canton? Apparently not. If you do, okay, close enough. In Canton, there's a special airplane, the United States of America built the F-4 Phantom. It served the Navy, the Marine Corps, and the Air Force, and I flew it in the Marine Corps and the Air Force and some other things. But anyway, over in Canton, there is an F-4, and its registration number is 640965. It's the lead attraction. It's the thing that rightfully or wrongfully gets your attention when you drive by the corner of, I wish I knew it, South Trade Days Boulevard and Highway something or other that leads down to Athens. That F-4 not only was one of 5,200, so now we got 1 out of 5,200 odds that I could have flown it. I flew 40 different F-4s in Fargo over 13 years. It was one of the 40 I flew. I've got a pretty good memory for things that aren't important. But of the 40 F-4s I flew in North Dakota, it was one of the 2 best. And it's not me calling it best, but the things that maintenance enlisted men and officer, pilot, and weapons guys, what they want in an airplane is they want it to be straight. And I don't mean airplanes get bent. You want a straight airplane that goes fast and it's got a killer radar, literally, meaning a powerful radar, because you're not out there to play patty cake with Mike Obama. You're out there to take a look at this airplane and say, one of us is dying right about, and before you say now, you pull the trigger. And so they're listening. Oh, now, they can't pull the trigger because they're dead. When the United States of America is gracious enough to allow a young man or woman to fly a fighter aircraft and give it the best missiles, the best radar, the best propulsion, and arguably the best flight controls that are out there, it's the pleasure, the duty, the obligation, and the mission of that man or woman to go out there and meet anything that's up in the air, any time of the day or night with no warning, and make it go away. And, thank God I had the pleasure to do that for 16 years. And I was never, God was kind to me because he knew he'd use me later. But when I tried to get to Vietnam, he blocked me, and he sent me to Annapolis. And by the time I got done with pilot training right here in Texas, the flying war was over. And I thank God right now publicly that God didn't allow me to do what I wanted to do, because I was so brazen as a young man that I thought, well, if I can just get over there to Vietnam, I can end this, which I couldn't. I could have died. I could have lost limbs. I could have lost my mind. And there's some people that say, well, I think you did. But go ahead, sir. And then we'll give it back to him, because I want him to choose, not me.
A month less than 5 years ago, there was an event right near your neck of the woods, which was about 56 miles east of where I understand you're the second most evil person in the world, has a dual appointment in addition to her senior executive service. That is the co-location of two vessels, one the fishing vessel Finback, and $2 billion worth of submarine hardware that uniquely had a swimmer delivery vehicle mounted on it, which shortly thereafter was captured on film, as I understand the evidence, and a pilot who, I think in your terms, didn't do what he should do, claimed he had a catastrophic engine failure on an airplane that did not have that, and put his craft on the water, and they proceeded to claim that a high state official died. And they didn't die, but there was a collusion of the U.S. Coast Guard, people who were in charge of the naval assets, which happens to have been an agency with C, I, and I think it's A, right after it. They were in charge of that submarine.
Is that Cowboys in America?
Yes.
Okay.
Anyway, it seems to me that the collusion of the U.S. Coast Guard, the U.S. Navy, the CIA, the NTSB, the FAA, the local authorities there, Maui County.
You mean the enemies of God?
Yes.
Yeah.
The Maui County people, all those folks who even put together a false autopsy in favor of pulling the wool all over the U.S. citizenry to keep a ineligible person in charge of the U.S. presidency, and to forestall the next person to take the presidency away from Donald Trump, but actually have it be the normal successor that they wanted, Hillary Clinton, of course. That seems to me to be a terribly complex thing. And you would have to have control over people who were in charge of very high places, who would have, SES credentials. And it seems to me that a person very much like the second most evil person in the world, who was only, I don't know the day, in fact, but I understand she has an appointment there at the University of Hawaii, which is just 56 miles away. And if the Finback and a $2 billion hardware of a hoax is going on, I think she would be nearby. But do you have anything that would suggest that she might have participated in that hoax?
Mark, which woman is he talking about? Your sister. Oh, yeah, of course. My sister was recruited at the University of Hawaii in 1966. Anybody who knows much about the University of Hawaii may know that they have something called the East-West Center, which is allegedly a wonderful thing to get the people from the East and the West to love each other and cooperate. No, it's not. It's a CIA operation. Barry Sotero's grandmother was the first female banker in Hawaii that enabled a bunch of things to happen that are all destructive towards America. First of all, his grandmother, and somebody help me if I'm wrong, Madeline Dunham, she was, I'll leave my judgment out of this, but she was not working for the best interest of America. There's many people who know more than me than think it was Madeline Dunham that recruited my sister due to her lesbian proclivities. And let me just really play a mind game with everybody. If you haven't heard the term hybristophiliac lesbian, you don't know my sister. But Obama's grandmother, whose name is Toot, or Toots. Yeah, her nickname. It's like I know these people. Let me make something real clear right now. And yeah, you're right. My sister was recruited there. She's a lesbian. She hates military. She hates America. She hates children. Well, she hates God. But fundamentally, the common flaw with many of these people is they hate themselves. And, you know, I don't love myself. There's a lot of things I saw my wife walk out 5 minutes ago. I wish I was younger. I wish I was prettier. I wish I had more stamina, and I don't believe those things on football games where they say, take this and you can stay in the tub for 4 hours. That's not true. If it takes you 4 hours to get the job done, you probably ought to get into another line of work. Yeah. But yeah, my sister, and I'm being real serious now, and if anybody's going to take a single note out of this, take this note. Google my name, 29 July 2015, letter, Trump and Dunford, and you'll see the letter I wrote personally to Donald Trump on the 29th of July of 2015 saying, I'll be fully on board with you guys as soon as you put Obama in protective custody and take my sister, Christine Marcy, off the street. I said, she's working for the other team. She's under the radar. I've heard from FBI and Navy intelligence that, she's can't talk about her. Well, I'm her brother and I'm talking about her. She's the second most evil person I know in the United States of America. And if she can't be taken out of the United States, I hope God takes her out any way he wants. Is that good enough? Well, I mean, the Obamas have a lot to answer for. How come with his, what was that? Where was his mother? His grandmother, who died and got thrown in the ocean right before he took office over in Hawaii. It was his grandmother, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah, see, I can't keep all this straight. There's too many bad players and only have 3 of us disciples. But what I can say is with total assurance that I'm not misleading anyone, the United States of America will change, it will prosper, and it will become a guiding light to a hurting world. There's so many people, 7.5 billion people around the world that know something's terribly wrong and they don't know what they can do and they don't understand who's doing what to whom. I understand who's doing what to whom and I understand who's going to fix it shortly. And my sister, let the chips fall where they may. I have no pity for her. She's got an example of how to serve God and she looks the other way. You don't have to be pretty. You don't have to be smart. You don't have to even believe in God, but if he asks you to serve him, don't say, come back and give me 2 weeks to think about it. You know, show up, stand up, speak up, and try to share the truth with people that God loves each and every one of you, no matter what you may have ever done, no matter how you may have offended him, no matter any sins you may have committed, and all you have to do to return to his good grace is ask him for forgiveness, and he's faithful. Any more questions, or can we call it? I'll stay here until I drop dead. Yes, sir. But he's my interpreter because I can't hear anybody. Male, female, doesn't matter. I'm old.
I'll go. Hey, Field, quick question for you. Up here towards the other side. I saw one report today of Dianne Feinstein allegedly going to be stepping down within 72 hours. Okay, but wait. It was a rumored
This will be fun.
report. So my question for you, Field, is what about her? Where does she fall in the category of your sister and Hillary? Because
Dianne?
I think she should be about maybe number 3 or number 4.
Well, I think those fruitcakes from California need to be taken out. I don't listen to the media. I do have one of the world's most dangerous cell phones, and you all heard it. I've got a couple of emails, 3 overnight, that I want to read on Sunday. And they're not my words, but I've asked permission to quote them and read them verbatim. As far as Dianne Feinstein, I've got a very disrespectful nickname for her, and the first word is whale. But anyway, and I'm not going to say the second word because it's a proper term, but it's part of female anatomy, and I'm just not going there. But I think she should have stepped down from the Senate about 7 minutes after they put her in. She is a traitor. She hates veterans. She hates the truth. And I know something about her nobody else in this room knows, and that's her husband, whose name is Bloom, B-L-U-M, When my airline got bought by Northwest, mine was Republic, Northwest bought us, a couple people from California that are venture capitalists named Alfred Checky and Wilson, can't remember, Gary Wilson. We're going to would you say a going away prayer? No, that's fine. I've been trying to go for hours. No, I understand. You don't have to tell me twice. I got it.
Joy.
Would you say a prayer, Mark?
Yeah, I will. One of the 9 spirits of the fruits of the Spirit is joy. I think we found some joy here today. This is tough, difficult subjects. We spent a lot of time looking at darkness and heinous things, especially pedophilia. So sometimes we have to have the light side. So I thank God for the humor that he's given Field McConnell. But it is a serious thing. So I want to wrap this up with a prayer of petition on behalf of all of us that believe in God's hand to finish what's been started. So Father, we thank you that every time we can come into your presence and lift your name up. And I ask, Lord, that you would heed and hear the prayers of your righteous men and women in this country. And the Lord, those that have turned from their wicked ways, they have asked you to heal the land. You have asked you to come, Lord, and let your will be done. So as we raise that up to you, Lord, we ask that it breaks through to the heavenlies. It's collected on that altar, and it's sent back down to do its work. Set this place free. It is the land of the free because of the brave in you. You have lifted us up for this hour. So each one, Lord, I pray that they would continue to petition and seek your face and give, Lord, of their hearts and their prayers that your will be done, and that the heinous acts of evil that have perpetuated through the centuries could finally find their demise. So let this all be done, and bless each one here today. In Jesus' name, amen.